Hello, on this podcast, we get deep into breathwork and how you can use your breath to enhance your energy levels, your mental sharpness, emotional balance, and spiritual connectedness. Stay tuned for an exciting episode. My guest, R. Christian Minson, spent 10 years as a monk in dedication to a lifestyle of service and meditation practices to understand the deeper meaning of life. For the last 13 years, Christian has been spreading the message and experience of how the practical and easy tool of conscious breathwork can profoundly enhance your energy levels, mental acuity, emotional balance, and spiritual connectedness. He has served as director of breathwork at Rhythmia Life Advancement Center in Costa Rica, taught at the Chopra Center in California, and shared his work alongside the well-known thought leader, Greg Braden. Hello, welcome to the Anti-Aging Hacks show. Today I have a very interesting guest, R. Christian Minson, who's a breathwork expert and a former monk. I have a lot of questions for him, so let's dive right in. Christian, welcome to the Anti-Aging Hacks show.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, so you've got a very interesting background, and I want to talk to you a lot about breathwork. But first of all, will you tell us about your background as a monk and why you did that for so long?
Yes, I was a monk for 10 years in a meditative order, Vedic or yogic type of discipline. Basically, a lot of meditation and service were our two cornerstones. I basically had a spiritual awakening in late high school, early college, and really got me on the path to seeking what the meaning of life was, what the real purpose behind the facade that everybody was projecting on me and the world really. And it led me to the spiritual master Paramahansa Yogananda, who I went out to California to get closer to the organization of his out there, Self-Realization Fellowship. And then they, it just got me deeper and deeper into it. And there was a portion of that organization, a monastic order, which was really dedicated to the highest purpose of life. What we really determined, our own self-realization, the evolution of our consciousness, and then the assistance in helping others to elevate their consciousness. So this was a lifestyle that was really dedicated to that pursuit, and it did away with a lot of the distractions that we have in everyday life here. So it was a great opportunity to really take a deep dive into the deeper meaning and purpose of life, and that was both my motivation and the benefit of the experience that I got there as well.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. So as normal people in this day and age, we're running around from task to task, trying to get things done. What does a day in the life of a monk look like?
It's funny because I go and visit there. I've been out for maybe close to 13 years now or so. And I say, what's new? And they go, nothing, because it's very tranquil and regulated. It's very, what would I say, routine. There's a routine, as Michael Brown of the Presence Process, routine is the root in. So it's helpful to have a routine to be able to dive deeper and deeper within your consciousness and explore that. But wake up at 5:30, meditate for an hour on your own. Go out and group meditate for an hour. Go to breakfast for half an hour. All meals were in silence. Had a study period where we studied scriptures, spiritual teachings, writings of different saints and masters. Then we went to our service position, which was largely administrative work, since we were the headquarters of the larger worldwide organization and taking care of everything. Lunchtime, we'd break for meditation for half an hour, lunch for half an hour in silence, and then back to work or service. And then 4:30 cut off with mandatory recreation for an hour and a half. Physical exercise was highly stressed there to keep the body vehicle fit and healthy. And that, that can't be stressed enough in the overall holistic well-being, that keeps us young and vital. But then so the recreation would be, to get the blood pumping, get the sweat moving. We played soccer, basketball, volleyball, a lot of team things because, they're a group of guys, but, weightlifting and yoga and things on your own. And then the evening would be a variety of either a class or a longer meditation, 3 hours. On Sunday, we'd have a 6-hour meditation. You meditate for another hour before bed and go to bed about 10:30, get up the next morning and do it all over again.
Wow. Seems crazy. And I'm sure I could ask you 100 questions about what life was in there, other than the fact that it was boring.
Well, I wouldn't say boring. It was tranquil. And that was like, and contemplative. That's essentially the nature there. It was not a lot of, there were times for things, we'd have movie nights and celebrate holidays with festive occasions and things like that, but it wasn't, wasn't the loud concerts and the bar scene and lots of traffic and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
It was tranquil.
Okay. Very tranquil, very tranquil. Okay. So Christian, you're an expert at breathwork. I want to ask you a lot of questions about it, but before we get into it, a lot of people might say, well, breathing, I breathe every day. There's nothing wrong with my breathing. So to those people, how are your teachings in breathwork different from the normal everyday breathing that people do?
Well, yeah. Breathing every day and there's nothing wrong with my breathing don't go together. So like we all breathe every day, but just like people can walk differently, right? There's like some people walk on the inside of their foot, some people walk on the outside of their foot. Whichever way it is, we don't want it to get too far out of balance because if we do, it will create problems in the knees, problems in the hips, so there's a proper way to walk, right? And an improper way to walk. Same way with our breathing. There's a proper way of breathing and improper ways of breathing, or just ways of breathing that don't maximize our ability to take in oxygen, our number one energy source, right? Like this is vital. This is our number one energy source. And we're striving to maximize our ability to bring that into us. So that's really how the breathwork differs from everyday breathing, is that it's a focus on maximizing the intake. Well, it's really focused on 3 things that are vitally important to a healthy breath, which is to maximize the breath, to have a full breath, to have it very relaxed, to, not only take full, but, you're all tense and stressed out doing it, but very relaxed, nice and easy, a free breath. And then that it flows, that it's continuous and fluid, meaning there's really no pausing between the inhale and the exhale. Now, this is how the breathwork differs from everyday breathing. It's like it really focuses on this and it enhances this with a bit of an accelerated pattern and such. But the model is applicable to help us train our everyday breath back into ultimate functionality, right? Where if we're breathing dysfunctionally and we're breathing shallow, most people breathe about 20% of their capacity, right? So if you think about it, you've got 80% of what you could be taking into your lungs and bringing oxygen, our number one energy source, into the body. You're leaving that on the table. So if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling lethargic, if your brain's foggy, if you don't have a lot of motivation or otherwise, it's likely that you're actually feeding your cells only enough to keep them operating, but not to keep them vital and alive. And so the breathwork really helps us to maximize our ability to take in that life-giving oxygen and then lets it do the work.
Yeah, you're right, Christian. As you said, there's a lot of people that are breathing very badly these days. Again, we hold a lot of stress in our shoulders and our chest, and I'm sure you'll talk about this some more. But it seems to be like chest breathing, shallow breathing. We're stressed, so we're not even fully breathing it in. And a couple of years ago, I learned belly breathing, and that really changed the whole paradigm for me because I didn't even know you could breathe into your belly. And since I've started doing that, I look at other people and I go, wow, your breath is so different than mine because I'm actually doing some of the principles that I've learned. Not to say that I'm doing it perfectly in any way, shape, or form. And so what you're talking about is going a little bit more, meaning taking people into an experience where they breathe so much differently or more that when they come back to normal, their normal behavior is improved over what they do every day now. Is that correct?
Essentially, yes.
What is a breathwork session look like for people that have never done it?
I see. A breathwork session really is a guided exploration into your inner being, and that using the vehicle of the breath to help access energy that's inside you, to dredge up emotional energy, to help clear and purge traumas and negative stored emotional experience, and ultimately to help realign us, connect us to the essence of who we are, the life force energy pulse that is us, and get that in alignment with life itself. And that creates a lot of sense of connection, intuitive ability or understanding on a deeper level, and ultimately your creativity kind of firing on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm. And, some people may talk about or realize going within as being akin to meditation, which they might have started doing or heard of more so. And I'll tell you this, meditation is hard to do, especially if you're starting off or if you've taken a break and you're trying to come back to it. Those first few days are very hard because your mind the monkey mind is running around everywhere trying to create all these thoughts. As soon as you try to meditate, you get all these crazy thoughts. And so how is breath work different from meditation in that aspect?
Well, the thing that people are striving to get through meditation, breathwork can also offer, which is a nice thing about it. Now, the differences really are that, especially, and I'll talk more from a formal meditative practice because that's essentially what I have been doing and did for 10 years as a monk and continue to do. Where you're trying to be still, you're calming the body, calming the mind, you're attempting to keep the mind focused, very little movement physically, just calming down everything and attempting to interiorize. Whereas the breath work, and that then provides you an insight to, your inner character as you quiet the storms of vibration of the outer world that's usually distracting you from that perception. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's meditation's angle. Breath work is as you're breathing in, it's a much more active and forgiving process, meaning we're not concerned if the body moves as you're doing the breath work. It's actually better to do either lying flat or optimally reclined about 45 degrees. So you're supported and can let go. Meditation, you're supporting your posture. We can make sound. It doesn't matter where your mind goes as you're doing the breath work. In fact, it's like you let go of it and let it do what it does, because it triggers emotions, and so the breath is triggering both the mind and emotions. The mind triggers emotions, things come up, and through the catharsis, essentially, then the being becomes quieted, and so more. The result of the experience is a similar state to what we achieve in meditation, just a different route to get there. And what I would say, if you have a formal meditation practice, breathwork is a great way to begin the practice. You do breathwork before the meditation, it clears out sort of the static that then allows you to go deep in your meditation. If you find formal meditation very difficult and all that, breathwork can be a substitute.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for describing that. I think the key distinction for people to know is that in breath work, you can let the mind wander, which is the hardest part for most people when they're doing meditation, because the mind wanders and they can't stop it for some
But
reason.
I'd like to say something about that, which is that they have permission to let their mind wander. But what many people report, especially people with what we call the monkey mind or just the constant chatter in the mind, is that their mind goes completely blank. You don't know how many times after a breath session somebody's gotten up, and then we have a chance to share usually, and somebody will say, "I didn't think of a thing that whole time." Right? It's like that's never happened to me before. Right? Mm-hmm. My mind is always going and stuff. So it has it in that permission. And that's part of really the process to me is we're giving ourselves permission to let go. In fact, if there's any overarching quality to or perspective on this breath, it's to let go, to let go of control and to let the breath start breathing you. It's akin to allowing your higher guidance, that life force energy, the intelligence imbued in that life force energy to start to take the reins in your life and steer and direct you, rather than that confused and often scared, egoic, intelligence mind that's trying to figure things out all the time.
So let's dive into just a little bit of that, right? It's the intelligent mind that knows what it knows when it looks at the inputs from the environment, and it says, okay, based on what I know today, this is the right decision for me. As opposed to what you're saying is when you go within, you're able to tap into other energy, other sources, the universal energy, if you will, that knows way more than you individually could. And therefore, the downloads that you get are going to be some things you should, concentrate or maybe give more attention to in that sense. Essentially,
yes. Yeah.
How does everybody get these downloads or connection to their true form, or how long does that take?
Well, I'd say it's possible for everybody, and how long it takes is really up to the individual. The thing I can say is the tool of breath work and committing to doing breath sessions and going on these breathwork journeys to unravel the things that are impeding your access to that higher consciousness, and then helping you align and practice staying in that higher consciousness is a much quicker prospect than trying to figure it out on your own. So the breath work is a tool that really accelerates your evolution and helps you to keep to keep going in that direction and keep making progress versus slogging it out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, those are some cool benefits. I want to dive into some of the specifics of a breathwork session. Is there anything else we're missing with regards to the benefits?
Just in terms of the anti-aging benefits, that I would just touch on that being that's essentially the genre of this podcast. Yeah. And yes. Breath, as we learn to breathe properly, we learn to take in more oxygen. As I said before, oxygen is our number one energy source. So all of our cells operate better on oxygen. They stay stronger, they stay healthier. And, the definition of aging is that the cells deteriorate, they lose their health and they lose their vitality. So, it's keeping that alive just on a physical level. But if we look at what's really aging us on other levels, our mind and our feelings have a huge role in how fast we age or how we can prolong that aging process. And so, the breathwork really addresses getting at these things that we've been holding on to or that we've been, that are affecting us in a way that is causing us to lose our health, be stressed out. It's kind of like overloading the circuit for months, weeks, months, years on end, and finally, the circuit gives out. So we alleviate that stress. And then ultimately, as we're talking in that whole spiritual realm, getting you connected to who you truly are and how you can access life force energy and distill it both through the breath, but then actually directly as well. And that's essentially the whole endeavor of the spiritual life.
Christian, it's really interesting. I was in India last year at an ashram in northern India, uh, and I decided to go get a cleanse there. It's called Panchakarma, where they take you in and they, cleanse you, detox you, and also it's a time for spiritual rest and rejuvenation. There's meditation sessions and yoga. And I walked over to a different ashram one afternoon, and I started chatting with some monks from Spain. And in one of the sessions or the conversations that I had, a monk said something so profound that it just shook me there. And what the monk said is that he said that focus on your breath a lot. And I said, okay. And then he said, a long breath equals long life. And I said, that's interesting. So it does tie into, of course, what you were saying, cellular health and beating back the stress, getting the oxygen and the life force that the cells need to perform. But I didn't know if there was a spiritual component of that as well, or this was just a physical component.
Yeah, definitely spiritual component. I mean, if you get into it, you've heard that term prana for life force energy, right? If you've done yoga, you'll hear that term. It's just Sanskrit for life force energy. This energy, this intelligent energy, which is what we could say the fundamental particle of the God consciousness that's kind of created us. And so we're made up of this as well. We need to consume it. It's kind of like it keeps us running. In fact, that's what all the foods that we eat, we break them down into fats and proteins and vitamins and minerals. But beyond that, it's the life force in those things that are harmonious with the operation of this physical vehicle that we're in. So as well, the fluids we drink, and then the oxygen we breathe is vital. It holds the easiest to distill, pranic energy and the most in it. And that's, makes sense because we're breathing all the time. We can go without food forever and 40 days, water without water for 5 days, but without air, about 5 minutes, unless you train yourself, and it's, all over. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a vital resource.
Okay, let's talk about emotional aspects for a second. You mentioned that as you do breath work, these emotional things will come out and you will feel different emotions based on what you've been maybe pushing back or not addressing in your life. Could breathwork be a substitute for seeing a therapist, for example?
Well, it's funny because and my the back of my teacher's book was a psychotherapist who was quoted as saying, one session of this breathwork is equivalent to 2 years of psychotherapy.
Wow.
And here's what I'd say about that is that there's a place for psychotherapy and there's a place for energetic therapy. Because why? In any trauma or any held experience, there's two components. There's a psychological component, but then there's an energetic or visceral component. We're actually storing this energy physically in our body. And this is part of the issue. Why we deal with the head. We naturally go, let's say you get in a car accident and now you can't get in a car. You're freaked out by the car and all that, right? So you go to a psychotherapist, you learn how to mentally be okay with the concept of the car and that this happens only one in however many, 1,000 accidents and all this. And so you get in the car, but now when a car swerves near you, you still have this like visceral, like, I'm going to die type of feeling in there. Mm-hmm. That's because the energetic component hasn't been addressed yet. The cells are still holding on to the memory of this, and that needs to also be released. And this energy that they're holding on to is emotional energy. If we want to get down to the biology of it, this is great. I learned through working with Greg Braden, who is one of the foremost thought leaders in the field, and he was talking about the biology of emotion, and what happens when we have emotions is neuropeptides get released. The neuropeptides are the thing that makes us, they interact with other parts of our biology to make us feel the emotion, right? So if we feel the emotion, the exchange plays out and the waste is flushed. But if we hold that emotion, we don't allow it to to express, those neuropeptides continue to float around, and they end up landing on the cell membranes of cells and attaching themselves there. So now, those neuropeptides, and depending on how often we're doing this, are in there and triggering every so often the essence of those feelings. So we're continuing to have this low-grade anxiety because we've never dealt with our anxiety, and we keep stuffing it. Now it's like constant because the cells are constantly triggered by that neuropeptide until we can release it, which is what the breath work is. Funny in the thing, the research study had said is one of the best ways to help release these stuck neuropeptides is deep diaphragmatic breathing. And so it dovetails very nicely into the breath work that I teach and how to help release emotions there on that biological level at that level. But the net result is the feelings, like, having felt like these emotions are so unavoidable, or that can constantly dog you, and then to be actually free of them is something that people are astounded by.
Yeah. So I have to ask you this next question, of course, so one session of breath work, according to somebody, psychotherapist, includes or is equal to 2 years of psychotherapy. But in reality, what do you see results for people either you work with or people that are doing this at home? How quickly can they change their emotional states?
I say you can quickly change your emotional states like that. It is, the thing is, it's not rocket science, and that's why I'm in this industry, because I'm not a rocket scientist. They say that the lifespan of emotions, I don't know the exact number, but it's in the number of seconds, somewhere like 90 seconds is the lifespan of emotion. If you actually allowed an emotion to come up, and let's say, even if it's expanded, if you just let yourself feel, that emotion tends to play out in a number of minutes. But when we hold on to it, it stays with us forever. So until we finally address it again.
Christian, I want to ask you about what an actual therapy or a session with breathwork looks like. Can you describe, when you work with people in a one-to-one setting or in groups, what does that look like? How long is it?
Session nowadays is over Zoom, generally speaking, a virtual type of session, which has a number of advantages. But the session is generally about 2 hours long, and that's to give us with 1 hour of the actual breath work going on. The first portion, 30 minutes or so, is to get to know the person and actually get to know them on a deeper level with regards to their physical history, emotional history, and spiritual history. So we're basically sort of loosening the soil, so to speak, of the things that are going on within them and pinpointing something we really want to work on. And then once that's pinpointed and we create an intention around that to really dive into that subject, we start the breathwork process. And then that's a process of breathing in this full free-flowing pattern for, like I said, about an hour. I'm there guiding to take you on the different stages and to be there to help process any emotions that would arise or any experiences that happen that are either pleasant and amazing or unpleasant and you're concerned about them. And also that's what I'm there for, is to help guide and keep you feeling safe and secure. And then at the end of the session, there's a space to just open and receive the good that you've created along the process. And that part is worth $1 million. And then once it's done, we come bring the person back. We have a conversation about what just happened, so they get to express the interesting things that happened, what they felt physically happening, what they felt emotionally happening, what kind of connections or understandings, awarenesses came out of it. I look at the way that they were breathing and then can give them feedback about what is going on in their life, or what's keeping them, they're stuck, or what's the best route to help them move through things the fastest. And then we determine, what kind of program is going to facilitate that the best, and then go for that many sessions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you were the director of Breathwork at Rhythmia for a few years. And of course, you've got a lot of experience guiding people in groups and one-on-one, I assume, as well. And so is it best for people to be doing this with a guide, or can they learn to do this themselves?
It is best to do with a guide, I'd say, at first. The goal, if you want that goal, is to be able to do it yourself and be comfortable and nonplussed about what will happen during the session. But in the beginning, it really depends. There's different types of people and different sensitivities and different levels of repression or suppression and such. So there's no inherent danger in practicing breathing. Breath is life. So it's good. But the concern is if in doing it, it does its job well and starts to bring up stuff that you are temporarily in your stuff, and you may not know what to do or have the same feelings that you had around it when those, when you first had that energy come up. And so you may panic or get, want to abort the breathing process. And that's about the worst thing you could do at that time, because you brought everything up, but you haven't seen it through to clear it. And so that's what a guide, somebody to be there to help move you through these portions of the thing, if they arise. It's not that necessarily happens every time in a breath session, but they're, especially in the beginning, if there's a lot of stuff, there's much more the tendency for that to happen. Mm-hmm. And then as you get more comfortable with it, and I recommend everybody breathe for, can breathe for 5 minutes on their own, and we can share something if you like. But and then work up to the longer sessions, which tend to bring the, up to an hour, which brings the more cathartic experiences if it's going to happen. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We'd love to do that. A few minutes of breathing at the end of the podcast or the YouTube video. So wherever you're watching, stick around. Now, the other question I had for you, Christian, is that are you recommending people do breath work through the nose? Do they use the mouth? How is this done physically?
The particular breath work that I teach starts with breathing through the mouth. So the purpose of breathing through the mouth is to get more oxygen flowing quicker. We're using the life force that's in the oxygen itself to be the activating agent in the whole process. So we want to flood ourselves more with it, that reflecting back on the question of how it's different from actual everyday breathing. We're flooding the body with oxygen, which is it's a catalyzer. It is bringing the body to life. And that is, that's what's so important.
Mm-hmm. So was this type of breathing around before Wim Hof made breathing cool?
Yes, definitely.
I'm sure.
There's ancient breath work, the yogic breath works, the breath works of Tai Chi, and those philosophies of the East. And then there's, this breath work that I teach comes from what I feel is a modern wave of breath work that started in the 1970s that included rebirthing, holotropic breathing, transformational breath, and that really snowballed into breathwork being popular these days. And Wim Hof takes a different angle on the breath, but he's probably done more to popularize it than anybody I know, which is a good thing.
Yeah. It's definitely a good thing. I love that there's a lot of health trends that are going back to us just being with our bodies, just the basics, right? Breathing, fasting, meditation. We don't need any tools. We don't need food. We don't need Diet Coke. We can just do it in the comfort of our home. You don't need, $20,000 to do it. It's just available to you as long as you learn how to do it right. In terms of how often people should be doing this, Christian, of course, I know different people have different deep-seated emotions or feelings that they want to get out in terms of a therapeutic way. Mm-hmm. But for normal people that are looking at this as a additional modality, how often should they be practicing breath work?
Well, I'd say if you're looking to improve your life and you recognize that what's going on in your life is a long-term project, it's not a quick fix, then to consider doing it as often as you'd go to any kind of therapy. If you were seeing a psychotherapist or you're seeing a physical therapist or something like that. So, once a week is pretty typical as far as taking a deep dive. What I usually get people started on right away after they've seen me is to do a daily 5-minute session on their own. So they do this daily 5-minute session, and then they come back to me in the week and we go on, the hour-long session, and it takes a deep dive. And then those 5-minute sessions continue to help just with the integration and the processing of that, what came up in those larger sessions. And so that's a great general schedule for people. Mm-hmm. Now, if people are finding that processing can be extended, once every 2 weeks, if people are really going through stuff, I might see people twice a week or, even multiple times in a week, just depending on the urgency of the situation. Right. And, and then some people just want it done with quick too. So they're willing to go for it.
Yeah. I believe anybody can do a 5-minute session. That's easy. Does your mouth get dry in the 1 hour session if you're breathing through the mouth?
It does get dry. Yes. That's one of the side effects, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So what, you just keep some glass of water inside? What
happens is your mouth gets dry in the first few minutes, and then your body starts to acclimate, and it isn't an issue anymore most of the time. If now I'm in Colorado right now, so the air is extra dry, and so if your throat is extremely dry, you can take a sip of water during the process and then go right back into it. It's not like meditation where you have to just, avoid everything. If you need a sip of water, sip it. But the idea is to stay with your process. So you're not lollygagging and then check your messages and see what's on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But it's, yeah.
Okay. Let's get into some spiritual questions that I have for you. I have just a few quick ones. I've heard that in breathing and shamanic practice, the goal of the exercise is to actually transcend the ego, get away from the everyday life and connect to your source and look at the world in a broader sense, if you will. Is that what people expect or experience while they do the breathwork sessions?
I'd say it is what they can experience, and whether they expect it or not, a lot of people don't know to expect that. And then they get it and they're like, holy crap, I didn't realize that life was, so much bigger than I thought it was. So there's a lot of awakening that can happen with this simple process. It's what I call our original medicine. It's the medicine of our soul. It is if we think about consuming this energetic life force that is imbued with intelligence, that, essentially we're imbuing ourselves with more of that intelligence. And so as we hit some critical mass of consumption, we kind of align in almost like an antenna. You're dialing in the frequency to get in alignment, because you're building resonance of that frequency, because as you're breathing it in and collecting this life force energy. So once you are there, that's the frequency of all that is, and what you need, tends to become apparent. That's the essence of intuition, is to be in touch with what's best for you, without having to rationally break it down and codify it and all that. But you just kind of know, because it's in alignment with that higher attunement.
Okay. Is there an intention setting that goes on along with a breathwork session as well?
Exactly. Yeah. Intention setting is a important part of the process. And that's the conclusion of, as we've talked, we basically wrap up the conversation and the exploration into what's going on in somebody's life with the intention. And the intention, the importance of the intention is really, to me, to be framed in the positive reaching for what's really, usually people come and say, I want to get rid of this. I want to let go of my anger. I want to, I want to be less mistrustful. I want to, be less of something. And so it's great to understand that, but then to be less of is not to fight the less than, but it's to point yourself in the direction of what it is that's actually that you want to attract. You get rid of this stuff. What is it you want to attract? And that becomes the basis for the intention. And in then it's sort of like a magnetic front car that pulls the energy in that direction. And the things that you want to let go of start to fall away as a necessity of moving in that direction. And
I got you. So you could potentially use this before you want to make a big decision in your life as something that aligns you to your inner self more so you know that it's coming from a place from the inside, not from some intelligent decision you're making from the external world.
Yeah, actually. And I have a little mini ebook on just that, making that the how to use breathwork to make important decisions in your life. It actually was how I made the decision to leave the monastic life. Was I actually used breathwork to really help me align with the answer that was most resonant for me. And despite the fact that staying in the ashram or the monastery was on paper the clear winner, when you came to the actual feeling, the visceral pulse that told me yes or no, the leaving was the clear yes. And it was a leap of faith. I took a deep breath, literally and metaphorically, and made that leap. And I can say that I've never regretted that decision, as much as sometimes I look back and say, I really admired having that sort of calm, tranquil life and such. I feel like I'm on the path that my soul is calling me on, because I took the time to listen to it, versus, get again through my head, find the pros and cons list and say, all right, this one's supposed to be right. But always struggling with that because, inside, it's not. So,
yeah.
So this one document, I outline the whole technique there. Maybe we can include that.
Yeah. Where can people get it? What's the link?
I don't know what the link is to say it to you. I have to include it in the bottom.
Sure. We'll put it in the show notes for sure. Okay, so I want to ask you a couple more questions. This one's a little bit different, but very pertinent to this discussion. Right now, these days, plant medicine or ayahuasca is also getting a lot of press because a lot of famous people, Silicon Valley celebrities are doing it. How is breath work different than plant medicine or ayahuasca? Because you've been in that environment where you had both going on, especially at Rhythmia. So how would you define and contrast the two?
Right. Well, Arrhythmia, I basically got the opening night for people. People came in, and the first thing they did on arrival, first activity was the breath work. So I had to explain what's the difference between breathwork and the plant medicine. And I would say they're both essentially keys to unlock the door to your consciousness. So the breath work will unlock that door and then beckon you in with a smile, maybe serve you tea, but the plant medicine will unlock that door and smile at you and beckon you in. And then when you don't look, it's going to kick your butt in there, close the door, lock it, and maybe even shake up the room there for you for the next 8 hours, right? You're not coming out for the next 8 hours. So it's a humorous way to say that, with the plant medicine, the main thing is that once you've taken the medicine, you're with it, and you have to be ready to just surrender to it. And there's value to that, but it can be uncomfortable for people especially who have a very controlling nature. Yeah. The breath work has essentially a release valve, in that you're not, one, it's a much shorter experience. So it's not a, 8+ hour experience, but just an hour that you're going on it. And, if things get intense, there's, you're not out of your conscious mind and so much that you can come back and settle into reality fairly quickly. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great description of the difference, I would say. And there's also now people that are doing 5-MeO or DMT, which I've heard is the rocket ship that doesn't just kick you, it slaps you, it throws you around, and then it sends you in a rocket ship to meet your maker. Is that true? Would you describe that as the next level in this whole progression?
I don't know. Again, next level, there are different experiences, and the caution on those experiences would be that I'd say build some conscious awareness before you go on that rocket ship, because there's but it can be the same with ayahuasca. It can be the same with breathwork too. But it's, the thing is, though, once again, with something that you're taking in, ingesting, whether smoking it or, drinking it, or however it's consumed, it's, there's an element of you that feels out of control because there's a foreign element in you. Right. And so this is both the positive and negative. Like, really the best experience will come if you let go of that control and let it have. But that's also scary, again, especially for if you are used to controlling everything, which is an issue that's really preventing you from really fulfillment in life. So it's good to deal with that. But, in gradual steps for some people, yeah, let's just blow the doors open. But others, and I say the majority, is probably take it step by step. And that's where breath work is a great first step. And what's great is, for those who really get it, it can be the final step as well. But it can be the great first step before getting comfortable to do these other ones if you're really called to it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Speaking about the type A, entrepreneurs, or just people that are just go-getters in life and in anything, in athletics or sport or in business, do you see that when they go through some of these experiences, be that breath work or ayahuasca, that they tend to get a little bit more looser with their type A-ness? Or is that is still like that doesn't change, even though they might get a broader perspective on life?
Well, I think if you take the elements of the breathwork, full, free flow, full, we're really learning to, if you think about a full breath is metaphorically receiving the fullness of life. So living life to the fullest. Free, though, nice and relaxed, like with as minimal effort as we need to put into it. Now, we do need to put effort into life. I'm not saying that we can just learn to, I can sit on the couch all day. No, and then you get into the flow. And so what I would say is, with type A personality, what typically comes along with that is a lot of tension and control freakness, like, a lot of overdoing. And what the breath work teaches you from kind of the inside out is to relax a little, let go of a lot of that tension and control. And then as you come back into it, you're much more efficient in your ability to, to command the situation. And so you actually end up having a lot more energy in reserve to do even more if you're really a, type A doer and such like that. But you've got a calmer disposition around it, not so frenetic or anxious. So that's what I would say would be the difference. It doesn't have to take away your type A-ness, which I think is a positive quality if we keep other things in check, right?
Okay, got it. Now, last question for you is, what are your top 2 or 3 anti-aging hacks that you will share with the audience, Christian?
Top 2 or 3 anti-aging hacks? Well, breathwork is my number 1 anti-aging hack. I mean, I believe it is in fact, I was thinking about this. It's not anti-aging, it's pro-youthing hack. Okay. And I make a distinct difference because breath is life. The more that we can really understand how to interface with our breath, the more we really sort of spark the flame of life to glow brighter. And so this is pro-youthing, right? It's not trying to counter life deteriorating. It's like creating life and keeping it burning brightly, right? So that's why I think it is the number 1 thing we go to first to then address as, that flame isn't burning brightly. What other kinds of things are we doing to help stave off the deterioration at that point, right? And one thing I was involved in and got at Rhythmia was stem cell treatments. I think there's a lot of promise on the horizon of that for, being really good treatment. It's already available as really good treatment, but I think we're just going to learn more and understand more of how stem cells can really help in an anti-aging type of hack.
Okay, great. Now, I believe you're going to show the audience how to breathe properly in a 2 to 3 minute session. Is that cool?
Right, sure. I'll show you how to do this full free-flowing breath pattern which you can practice. We'll just do it for a couple minutes here, but that you can practice for, say, up to 5 minutes. And once we're done too, you'll include a link that will help them they can take this practice. It'll be a link to a video where you can practice this on your own. And this is what I recommend. Get yourself started, get yourself familiar with it, start to feel how there's little shifts that happen in your life. And then you might want to reach out for something more. So full free flow. We're going to breathe through the mouth, remember, so we can maximize that fullness. So full is into the belly. I'll do a little into the belly and up into the chest. Okay, that's full. Free is nice and relaxed. So we especially focus on the relaxed aspect on the exhale. We just kind of let go. We're not pushing it out, and we're not controlling out. We're simply just, the ideal would be if you could exhale and not make a sound. Now I'm making a little sound here so you can hear it. And generally you're going to make a little sound. And then the flow is the connected breathing, that as soon as you finished inhaling, you exhale. And as soon as you finished exhaling, you inhale. And you can see that I'm going at a bit faster pace than normal breathing. Your pace may be a little bit faster than this. It may be a little bit slower, but it should be around this range. And you just focus on that cyclical, rhythmic breathing. It's that cycle that's most important. Just keep this rhythm. Then, of course, to keep it relaxed, to keep it easeful. And then we work on increasing the volume over time. So until you get more in the range of 70, 80, 90%, approaching 100% of your capacity. And if anything starts to come up, a little interesting physical sensation, a little interesting emotion coming up, just be with it and just keep breathing into it. This is really the trick, is to stay with that energy and don't try to run from it. Don't try to fight with it. Just let it bubble up like a bubble until that bubble bursts and the energy diffuses. That's essentially it. And then the last breath in. Take a nice full one. If you want to hold it, you can. But when you want to let go, just let go. Come back and then just sit and enjoy for a minute. And I don't know if you were doing that with me, Faraz, but
It was. Felt great. I feel so much more calm just in 2 minutes.
Yeah, so. And it's a great state changer. Like you're asking in the very beginning, how long does it take to change your emotions? And we can change them in an instant. Now, to change the habit of, our general reaction in a negative way, maybe takes a little bit longer to pick apart that mechanism, which is what we do. But, this is what I call the coping part of the process. Really 3 phases in breathwork: coping, healing, and thriving. So coping helps us just to get stable in the moment. Healing takes us back and starts to uproot the initial causes of the imbalances in our life. And then the thriving phase is really to start to maximize our relationship to that life force and the intelligence behind it to be the best you can be, right? And
that's
not
great.
Join the army.
Yeah, that's not join the army. Thank you, Christian. That was great. Appreciate it. Now, I know that you are doing private sessions with people as well, so we'll include the link to that in the show notes for this episode. For the listeners, I would recommend that you start to at least, do what Christian shared. Start with 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I'll include a link to that video as well, where you show people how to do the 5-minute version. And then as you build up your breath work, then you can engage with Christian and do private sessions. I think this is way more important to do to gain control of your physiology and biology than trying to, take psychedelics or even plant medicine or some of the newer versions of it, because you're in control and you can do this without needing anything else in your life, which teaches you more lessons about how you're fully self-sufficient in your life. So, Christian, again, thank you so much. Where can people find you online?
Online, breathflow.com. Breathflow, the flow of the breath, .com is my website. And another website, rchristianminson.com. I'm R. Christian Minson on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So you can find videos of me in those various locations and such. So reach out in one of those ways. Love to keep in touch.
Awesome, Christian. Thank you so much.